Hello to all of the cosplayers out there, kinksters who might be joining us for the first time, because I'm not really a kink channel, and cosplay kinksters who this video is mostly aimed towards. Grab a cup of tea. I know this isn't my style of video, but look at this cute mug. This is from Kawaii Kitty Cafe. They're amazing. I have Sleepy Time Vanilla in here. It's a really good calming tea. It's actually a really good aftercare tea as well if you like to drink tea during aftercare. But yeah, we're gonna be discussing some kink cosplay photographer drama. So I personally worked with this photographer and it was a terrible experience. And I still haven't gotten my photos back, and I've been ghosted the times that I have asked for my photos back. And I'll be really honest, I'm pissed about it, and that was a big reason of why I was I prompted making this video. But I really want to make this a PSA as well. If you're wondering who I'm talking about, it is the Fetlife user ThunderousPAWG. I only worked with the husband because the husband and wife are both on this account. I only worked with the husband. I had no contact with the wife. I wish her all the best. I'm only going to be referring about the husband in this situation, the one who I personally worked with, and I'll just be referring to him as Thunder because I don't want to infringe upon his vanilla life in any way. This has nothing to do with him as a person or anything in his vanilla life. I'm just strictly talking about him as a kink cosplay bondage photographer and the things that he did wrong and things to look out for about him. So yeah. I kind of have this broken up into sections. First, I'm going to read through all of my messages. I'm going to be posting screenshots here, as well as reading through them out loud. So this is going to be a very long video, but I want to make sure anyone who's hearing impaired or sight impaired will be able to get all of the information. And then from there, I'm going to talk about what happened when we were actually in person at the convention, that meeting that we had there. And then I also conducted 3 interviews, one with Lili, who was my friend who was originally going to be going with me to the shoot, and we were going to take turns being tied up. That way we'd be each other's escorts, basically. And another is with Rhiley, who is a relatively new kink model, but she is a cosplayer, a cosplay model, a kink model, and a cosplay kink model. She is also dating someone who originally was a bondage photographer for her, who she met professionally through that, and then from there went into the relationship that developed naturally, not through the professional relationship. And the third interview I did is with SciGuyRope. He is a professional rigger and bondage photographer who I personally have worked with. I had nothing but good experiences with him. Everyone who's ever worked with him will talk about how professional he is, how amazing he is, just nothing but good. If you are someone who's interested in doing rope photo shoots and being a model for that, definitely go hit him up. He's pricey, but he's very, very worth it. Like, it was worth every cent that I paid for him. And I'm going to leave those fairly unedited. The only things, I'll cut out parts where I was explaining what happened in person because they didn't know that already. So I'm going to have that in the beginning here. So I'm going to cut that out at the end and just leave the responses to it. But other than that, this is going to be a very, very long video. So buckle in, get ready. I know I'm smiling a lot, and it's actually because I'm anxious. Through every interview I conducted, I was like, doing this number, like, this is like actually my hands right now, like, I'm not making them do this, they're just doing this. I don't know why talking about this makes me so nervous, but it does, so here we are. Okay, so I'm gonna start with reading the messages. So it starts on Fetlife. I had posted something when I was still with an ex of mine, and we were looking to do a bondage photo shoot on Thursday night in Aizawa. Present mic for a kink bondage shoot on Thursday night. He responded to that and messaged me, and it starts out with, "Greetings. I saw your post and need for a photographer. If you're still in need of one, let me know. I'm a real estate photographer, but I currently transitioning into fashion and model photography. I would not charge you for doing a fetish shoot with me because I am in need of those shots for my portfolio. I'll be shooting all over Katsucon, so again, let me know so we can schedule appropriately. Walk in Beauty," his name. I said, unfortunately, my partner and I are no longer together, but if you would like to shoot still, I am cosplaying Rape Sailor Jupiter at night and would love to do a bondage shoot with you. What's your experience with rigging, and how do you have the do you have the location, or would the shoot be in my Airbnb? He says, I don't have the location. I'm local, so I'm commuting to the con. So if you would want to set up in your Airbnb, that would work as well. I'm amazing with knots and some experience with rigging. I just haven't had the opportunity to practice in years. However, I'm a quick study and I will freshen up my skills before we meet if you decide to go with me. I asked, do you have any sample photos you could email me of your rope work? My email is blank. He said, sure thing. It'll be later tonight when I get home and get off of work. I said, awesome. He sent me the photos. I think I will put the photos in here and I'll just blur out the nipples and them. But these were the 2 photos that he sent me, and I feel like I should have noticed beforehand that they were very obviously taken during play, and just the fact that he didn't have any photos that were more than a harness, and also the fact that they weren't taken in a professional setting, at least from what I could see. They don't look like they were taken in any sort of a professional setting. It looks like something just in the middle of play with his wife or someone else, and that was what he sent me as his portfolio, and it was only 2 photos, which really doesn't give you an idea of how someone is, like, with rigging. And like, these are all these things that I look back on and I'm like, what was I thinking in the moment? Why did I think this was a good idea? Why did I go through with this? But I was being stupid, okay? Like, we've established this. It doesn't change anything here. And so he said, quick question. Do you have the rope, mounts, and other gear? And I said, I can bring rope, yes, but I don't have any mounts. As far as the time for the shoot would go, around 5 or 6 p.m. I also have food in my Airbnb, so if you want to do a longer shoot, I can feed you dinner, LMAO. And that was just like, because I'm really big on tipping, especially in, like, I'm really friendly, so, like, if someone, like, I feed everyone at conventions, like, I always, like, even if I'm in a hotel, I bring a crock pot, and, like, if anyone's like, oh, I've only had a bag of chips, I'm like, come to my hotel room and eat real food, oh my god, but I never eat properly outside of conventions. Don't at me. That's just like a normal thing that I do. And because he did offer me the shoot for free, I always tip extra when I get a free shoot. Like, I tip regardless, but I tip extra when I get a free shoot. And I was like, you know, like, if you're gonna have a long shoot because it's gonna take you a while to rig, like, I don't mind, like, giving you food. And he said, how many people are staying with you at your Airbnb? He said, just one other person. We're a 10-minute walk from the con, by the way. And I just cleared the shoot with my roommate, and she's cool with it. Also, will it be both of you doing the shoot or just one of you? I'm assuming that I'm talking to the guy in the relationship on your account, but please correct me if I'm wrong. He says, I just sent you the email. I can only find 2 pics of some rope work I've done. Sadly, it will just be me, the guy. She had the choice of coming to KatsuCon or going to Miami for work. She chose Miami. Plus, we already went to MagFest earlier this month, so she's taking a break from cons. This is a shared account, by the way. She has access to it as well. That way we can see who each other are talking to and have transparency about what kind of play projects we get into. Rereading that, I should have taken that there as a sign, the fact that he said play projects and not photo shoot. Because I was not going to him, or he contacted me originally based off the post, but that post was nothing about wanting a play partner for the con. It was nothing about wanting to play with someone, anything like that. It was purely about wanting a professional bondage photo shoot. Nowhere did I ever insinuate that I wanted to play with anyone except for, at the time, who was my partner. And if we did, we were talking about the possibility of bringing a 3rd person into the photo shoot, ended up not happening, blah, blah, blah. But still, the photographer or rigger being involved in the play was never thought of as an option, and we were not going to do any sort of play during the photo shoot. So I said, alright, cool, I'm fine with shooting with you if you would like. Would you like me to bring my own rope, or do you have a preference? My rope is just cheap nylon rope from the Dollar Tree because it's what I can afford. Because I also don't, I'm just starting to get into modeling for this. I'm still very new to this, like, and I really just use it for self-rigging and for, like, self-photos and stuff, and just to practice rigging. Nothing that I would ever use on someone else because it's not high-quality rope. He said, go ahead and bring it. We can get creative. My rope is old and I've used it on my boat. Why did I not catch this as a warning sign? This was only 3 months ago, and just like I've done more research. Like I was already like, I'd done a lot of research before this, but like that should have been such a big warning sign that he blatantly said, I use this rope on my boat, and then he was like, I'm gonna bring it and use it on you. What was I thinking? I'm like more mad at myself right now. This may give me an excuse to go out and buy some new rope, smiley face. Is your roommate going to be in the scene as well? I said, no, she won't. I don't know if she'll be in the room. I'm going to try and have a friend with me for costume checks and safety, though. He goes, I completely understand. That's why I was asking. I'm going to be bringing several $1,000s worth of lights and camera equipment. I want to make sure that I'm not going to get robbed, LOL. What other kind of play are you into? I said, I totally get that. I'm talking to my friends and I'm kind of like, hey, this dude seems trustworthy, but I don't want to be murdered. Can anyone come with me? LMAO. Rope work is the main thing I'm into, along with collars and mild markings with nails, teeth, crops, or hickeys. I'm looking to keep this less of a play session though, and more of a professional fetish shoot, if that makes any sense at all. Like, I plan on staying fully clothed. I can email you my cosplay. It's still really revealing and works well with the robe in my opinion. Partly for my own comfort and also because I'm cross-playing, so I like to have a stuffed bra and stuff like that. I'm trying to keep the shoot more centered around what would make sense for Jupiter rather than myself, if that makes any sense. He goes, that makes complete sense. You were wanting to stay in character. I can respect that. Remember that. I can respect that. Besides you, I have nothing booked for Friday except in the morning, so I'm all yours for whatever you want to do. Are you 420 friendly or party friendly? I said, I am, but it's not my house, so no one is going to be smoking inside. I am planning on bringing edibles, though, if I have the time to make canna butter. I'm really busy on Friday because I have 2 panels I'm running. A photo shoot in the morning, your shoot, a group shoot after that, and Saturday morning I have rehearsal for the mask at 8 a.m. So I don't plan on doing any partying other than maybe Saturday night, but even that's iffy because Sunday morning at Open I'm volunteering for Epic Cosplay. Aha. And for shoots, I do prefer that everyone stays sober, but afterwards, I'll totally give you some edibles if I bring them. And I was handing out edibles to all my friends, not like to random strangers. I would never be that person. But like to my friends who I saw and stuff, I was like, yo, I made an edible. Do you want one? Like, take one. They're cool. And they were things that I had eaten and I knew was safe. He goes, I can't shoot straight while intoxicated, LOL, so we're good on that front. I said, okay, 2 crying laughing emojis. Just wanted to make sure that was out there. Can't consent when you're not sober, you know? Also, my friend who is coming with me kind of wants to get some solo shots as well after I get mine, but she's still thinking it over. I have no problem with that, and wow, you are busy at the con. What is going to cosplay as? What is she going to be cosplaying as? He corrected himself. She'll most likely be in Sailor Mercury, so we are talking about shipping photos as well as solos. She's never had a fetish shoot before, though, so I know she wants to watch me get my solos first, and she wants me to help with her solos before we get photos together. I'll definitely top her for the shipping photos, though, which will be super awkward because I'm a huge bottom, crying, laughing face. He goes, shipping photos? Question mark. I'm not sure what that is, but I get ya. I used to be a bottom. I guess you could say I'm a bottom-leaning switch. I'm trying to find some females at the con to peg me, which I hate that word, females. Like, that's, I'm not even a girl, and I hate that word. Like, it just seems so disrespectful. My girl doesn't enjoy doing it to me, so I have to outsource that kind of play. Finding a guy to fuck me at the con is like looking for water in the ocean. I have a strapless strap-on I'm bringing, as well as my door-mounted sex swing. Great props for photo shoots. And I just didn't respond to that, because I was like, where did I hint that I wanted you to say any of that? That was so much information about your personal play life that I just didn't need or want to know, because we are having a professional photo shoot, not a play session. Yeah. And then, so after I don't respond, he says, you should totally find a tuxedo mask, ... LOL. And I was like, oh, we have a tuxedo mask for our group, LMAO, but we are not looking for one for the shoot. And shipping photos are just couple photos, basically. And I just, like, explained what shipping meant to him. He goes, ah, gotcha. I've never heard the term before. I'm not sure if I said this or not, but my name is blank. Yes, that's my birth given name, by the way. What's yours? I was like, Jules. I really hope, LOL, you've never heard of shipping? He goes, never. I went to film school. I was a photojournalist in the Air Force for 6 years, and I did amateur porn for a while, and I've never heard that term. I guess you learn something new every day. How does any of that relate to not knowing the term shipping? But okay. It's a pleasure to meet you, Jules. I should have figured that by your reply email you sent me. Said, LMAO, it's all good. He goes, do you mind if I ask a personal question? I don't respond. For our shoot and rope work, what are your hard limits? Are there any issues I need to know about beforehand to ensure your comfortability and safety? Also, what kind of music do you like? I like to play music during closed shoots. So some of these questions seem correct, asking about are there any issues that he needs to know about beforehand for comfort and safety. That is a professional question to ask. Now, asking about hard limits. That's a play question. That's something that you ask when you might be pushing those limits. Or you need to know those limits because you're going to be in a session with this person. Again, I have made it clear I do not want to play. I just want to have a photo shoot. So it's a little weird that he asked me that, but mind you, while this conversation was going on, I was at work, so I'm like texting him back and forth while I'm like taking customers and stuff, which shouldn't have been doing, but too late, can't go back. I said, I can't think of any hard limits in regarding to a shoot, but I'll be sure to tell you if anything comes up. I think like the way that I answered there was sort of my way of saying like, why does it matter? Because we're doing a rope shoot. You know I'm okay with rope. My hard limits shouldn't matter because rope is the only thing we're focusing on here. If anyone out there does know why that would possibly matter, please educate me. But to me, the question just came off as a little bit weird. I do struggle with back pain, so I usually struggle to stay tied up in one position for too long because of my scoliosis, so I just need small breaks where I can stretch. I'll ask my friend what hers are too, and I have a Spotify playlist that I can put on. And I quoted what Lili said, which was, I have back and knee pain. Sitting on my knees or having them bent for a while hurts, and they can walk up. I personally haven't ventured into bondage much, so I have no clue what my limits would be, so I'll let you know if I'm uncomfy. And then I quoted her name. And he goes, thank you. Would you like for me to contact your friend as well so she can establish a point of contact with me? My number is blank and my Snapchat name is blank. Either way is quicker ways to talk to me. And I was like, okay, I'll give you her number and text you as well. So that was the end of our Fetlife conversation. I'm gonna now go into reading our text messages, and then from there I'm gonna go to reading Lili's Instagram messages with me, and because that's kind of like happens while I'm texting him because I'm sending her screenshots and I'm like, this seems weird. Alright, so this is the start of the text messages. I sent him the first text. Hi, it's Jules from Fet. He goes, hey Jules, Lili just sent me a text. Be sure to save my number. I went, already did, thank you. He goes, you're the best. Oops, I meant to send this text to you, but I sent it to Lili by accident. My text was, we are keeping it professional for the shoot, but I gotta ask, are you into boys or girls or all the above like me? And I answered with, I mostly go for other queer people, but to be honest, I'm not looking for a hookup at the con other than with one of my friends who I've been wanting to play with for a little while now. I've been really hurt from hookups before, and it's sort of ruined my trust in people that I don't know well and kink. And it's just not a position that I want to be in right now. And he goes, I feel ya. I'm a dude who's always been looking for a hookup. I'm just super picky about whom I play with. I'm loving your look, which is why I'm excited to shoot you. I want to explore my queer side more. Just lack of opportunities is always my issue. Conventions and festivals are the only time that I really get to play around. Safely, of course. I'm like, okay, like I did. How many times do I have to say that I don't want to play with you? I go, yeah, that's totally understandable. I hope you do find someone, but for me personally, I just prefer to play with people that I'm close friends with or romantically interested in. I've had an experience where I slept with a guy after a few times of us spending time together, and we were dumb, and we didn't set up a safe word, and he didn't understand the differences in, oh, stop, and oh, fuck, stop, that hurts. While I was going through a cancer scare down there, I was supposed to be on sex restriction. It kind of fucked me up, so I set some hard rules for myself to avoid getting hurt again. And then he says he completely understands, and he goes on to talk about his past sexual trauma, which I'm not going to share because I don't feel that it's my place, but he gave a very large number of times that he'd been abused, and not denying that that happened to him. I'm not saying at all that that did not happen to him, and that is a terrible thing that it happened to him, and the fact that he was abused in this way, but the way it was said to me came off as he was trying to, like, one-up me. I don't think that's how he meant it. I believe that he meant it as a, I understand, I've been hurt too, and, like, I didn't even go into my past of sexual trauma with him. I just talked about the one instance that I have in kink that left me a little messed up, but I honestly, like, the person that it happened with, I'm still friends with him. Like, we still talk every now and then. I don't hold anything against him. It was just miscommunication on both of our ends, him being an inexperienced dominant, me being an inexperienced submissive, us not communicating well. It was a recipe for disaster, and I don't hold that against him at all. And just, yeah, like, it felt like he was kind of trying to one-up me, almost. And then he ended, after he talked about his past experiences, he said, I'm super excited to do this shoot with you, though. I would like to ask you out for lunch or whatever, so we could do a meet and greet before our shoot. And then I didn't respond to that. Mind you, while we're doing these text messages, I'm actually at home working on my competition piece, and so I'm, like, really not trying to have a conversation because I'm, like, aggressively trying to get this competition piece done because he thought it was a lot of work. He goes, I asked Lili the same thing. Maybe we could all get lunch or coffee together. And that's horrible you went through that during a cancer scare. I've had to deal with that shit before, and it's not pleasant. If I ask or say something that makes you uncomfortable, just tell me. You won't hurt my feelings. Said Lili and I talked about it, and we're fine with meeting you at the con before the shoot. The times that work best for us is noon, and we were thinking meeting at the Starbucks. He goes, sounds like a plan to me. I have to say, I'm the most excited about our shoot. The other shoots are paying me, but this is what I want to get into more professionally, so thank you for this opportunity. I want to make sure you have a blast with me and get a great product out of it. I said, no problem, and I still plan on tipping, of course. He goes, don't worry about that. Whatever your heart decides at the time is good enough for me. Keep that in mind, because my heart decided. Because of you, I now have 2 beautiful models to work with. Is Lili your roommate at the Airbnb? I want to talk about the word beautiful for a second. He knew that I was trans. I'm very open about being trans. Maybe it was just something that he didn't think about, but generally, when somebody is trans, you don't want to use gendered things that are, like, gendered compliments that are the opposite gender of what they are, unless you know they're okay with it. Like, my boyfriend will call me beautiful sometimes because we're both very into the vampire aesthetic, and we incorporate that a lot into our kink life, and it works in the context, and I know that he's saying it from a perspective of, you're a gorgeous, beautiful boy, and, like, so because it's coming from him in that way, I'm okay with it. But when people that I don't know call me beautiful, it irks me to my soul, especially when they know that I'm trans. Like, I don't hold it against anyone if they don't know that I'm trans, but I wouldn't have someone who I know is a trans woman and be like, oh, you're so handsome, because handsome is a gendered word for a man. It's a compliment, yes, but it takes away from that transitional aspect, and unless I knew that she was okay with it, I would not call a trans woman handsome. Same thing. You should not call a trans woman or a trans man beautiful or, like, pretty, anything like that, unless you know that they are specifically okay with it. Or ask, be like, hey, is it okay if I call you beautiful? Like, just ask. think a little bit, and again, I don't think any of this was purposeful. I think he was just inexperienced and didn't realize that what he was doing came off this bad. And I said, okay, but he asked, is Lili your roommate at the Airbnb? I said, no, she's another friend. He goes, cool, thanks for opening up this opportunity for her and myself. Don't let me keep you up if you need to go to bed. I'm a night owl. But Jules, you are amazing, dude. I can't wait to meet you and see what we can create together. And I went, nah, I'm just busy working on my competition cosplay. He goes, LOL, nice. Have you ever played with or worn latex before? And I'm reading this and I'm like, where did this... Have I not stated that I don't want to talk about play? We're not doing latex in the shoot. Why does it matter? I said, I'm sorry, but I'm not particularly comfortable talking about that. He goes, wearing latex? I made a Batman Who Laughs cosplay last year for AwesomeCon out of latex. Worst mistake I've ever done. Couldn't breathe in it. I looked super fly, though. And I went, yes, I would prefer to keep any kink conversation related to the shoot, please. LMAO, yeah, it's not a good material to wear all day. He goes, sure thing. I was just asking because I used to compete with all my cosplays as well. The only time I've ever placed was wearing a latex-based costume. When I talk about latex, it has nothing to do with kink. I'm talking about the mask molding and cosplaying, but I won't bring it up again. How much of your body do you want roped up for the shoot? Just thinking about how much rope I may need. I said, I was thinking about my chest and torso, maybe my legs and arms. He said, what would you like the most? Any kind of knots that really stand out to you? I said, I really like complex detail in the rope. And then I sent a picture of a full torso harness that had diamond patterns in the middle on the front and back, as well as like some detailed rope wrapping between the diamonds and like rope going through the diamonds. Just a really nice pattern overall, something that doesn't look too complex to do, wouldn't take too terribly long, but still looks really nice in photos. And when stuff like this, he goes, you got it. What color is your rope? It's green. He goes, awesome. How comfortable are you with the rope around your neck? I said, I'm totally comfortable with it. He goes, good to know. What about rope up your butt crack, thong style? I know most people don't like it. Why would you phrase it like that? This is supposed to be a professional conversation. Supposed to be. Why would you say butt crack? Honestly, like, just... like, reading through these, I'm like, what was I thinking at the moment? Why did I even attempt to go through with this? The next morning I said, OMG, I somehow just saw this, LMAO, but I'm pretty good with it personally. Then I sent a picture of my rope. It's just 4 hanks of green rope and 2 hanks of pink rope. I said, also, that's the rope I have that's green and pink. I may pick up some blue or white for Mercury. He goes, dude, that's awesome. Where did you find it? And I was like, Dollar Tree. He goes, how thick is it? And when any Dollar Tree with an automotive selection has lots of nylon rope and a bunch of colors. He's like, I'll check it out. The rope I use can lift a car engine. I get that he was just trying to say, like, my rope is durable. Why does it matter that your rope can lift a car engine? All that makes me think is that you've used your rope to lift a car engine before. I don't want that going on my body. Oh man. I said the paracord is 1/8 of an inch, and I'm not sure about the other because I don't have the packaging. Then I sent him a picture of all of my rope, which is the same rope as before, as well as 2 hanks of a slightly thicker paracord in red and yellow. I said, that's all the rope that I use, and it's all from the Dollar Tree. He goes, awesome. I'll show you the rope I use when I pick up some new clean ropes. I'll probably grab this weekend when I get paid. I said, awesome. He goes, what colors would you want me to grab? I was like, blue, green, or black would all work. He goes, awesome, because I think those are my only options, that and yellow. And then I sent him this. I think I even left this out of the screenshots because this is all just schedule talking. Like, nothing happened in this other than me just being like, oh, I'm really busy at the con, and Lili's schedule, and my schedule, and like, I was really busy at KatsuCon. yeah, I may have a few concerns. I may need time to tie the knots you want. I'd also like to get up there early to set up my photo equipment and get my lighting set up and squared away. When would the earliest I would be able to tote to the Airbnb and start setting up? The earlier, the better. And I was like, let me ask my roommate if she's comfortable for you being in the Airbnb without us to see if I can give you my key and set up early. He goes, awesome, thanks. I went, okay, so my roommate is cool with me giving you the key so you can set up early. So when we meet up at noon, I can give you the key for the, and the address for my Airbnb so you can set up. So you'll have about an hour before we get there for setup and then 2 hours to shoot. He goes, awesome, and this is for Friday, right? I said, yes. And so, in the Airbnb, for this situation, I know this can sound a little bit risky and I just want to kind of explain my thinking. I was going to have everything valuable on me. The person who I was rooming with also knew about this. I asked her. She was the only person I roomed with. If you watched my Katsucon vlog, she knew, so she knew to have anything valuable of hers out of there. The people who own the Airbnb, I would assume, know that people are staying in their Airbnb, so they would not leave anything of like utmost value unlocked or anything like that. So I was like, you know, I really, like, I was going to do my best to be in the Airbnb with him as well, but I was like, hopefully he'll only be in there for a little bit, and, like, worst comes to worst, everyone has insurance, and I take full responsibility for allowing this person into the Airbnb. So on Monday, February 11th, I messaged him and I was like, hey, I decided to drop Zethard for my lineup, so now all Friday I'll be in Rave Jupiter, and that will eliminate some of the stress of me having to change cosplays for the shoot. He went, glad to hear, I'm buying rope today. And then Thursday of Katsucon, he texts me, he says, so what's the plan for tomorrow? I said, meet at the Starbucks at noon. From there, I'll give you my Airbnb address and then the code to get into the door so you can set up. I have to check in for the masquerade at 1 p.m. and then I'll be heading over to the Airbnb, and we still have until about 2:45 to shoot. And then, a little bit later, I go, issue! The Airbnb I'm in is apparently super strict with people and are like, we have cameras, absolutely no uninvited guests can come in, and something tells me they aren't going to go for a random person coming into the house for a bondage shoot. As uninvited guests, I mean, if you invite me in, then I'm invited, lol. I'm just not a paying guest. He goes, so what's the plan? Are we canceling the shoot? Did you want to see if you can find someone's hotel room to host the shoot? I said, I really don't want to cancel the shoot, but I have no idea where we could shoot it. He goes, most B&Bs only check their cameras if there's an issue. I'm not spending the night there or throwing a party. It's also highly illegal for them to have cameras inside, so they won't know what we are doing in there. I think we should be safe at your Airbnb, but it's your call. I went, I'm gonna say no just because the room is under my roommate's name and she's really anxious about it. Plus I had my friends help me unpack after about 20 minutes of them being there, and we got a text that said, remember the rule about no guests? I'm looking for a new room now. He went, okay, let me know. Any luck? No, sorry, I tried. 2 crying emojis. Just let me know if anything changes. Said, let's still meet at noon because I have an idea. And he goes, okay, I'm running a little behind. I forgot a few things and I had to turn back and get them. Can we try 12:30? I said, it works for me. He's like, what's your plan? My only issue is you'll only have me available till 3 p.m. Will we have enough time? I said, so basically we head there all together and we do the shoot anyways, but you won't have any early time to set up. It gives us a little over an hour, so I think we should be good. He goes, okay, cool. I got a problem on my end. I misjudged this traffic. I was like, uh-oh, just let me know when you're here. Then I gotta get into the line for the mask for pre-reg. He goes, okay, it'll probably be close to 1. I'm parking right now. Where do you want to meet? And I gave him where I wanted to meet, the gazebo level, past medical, where the escalators are. We just had some miscommunication here. That's not really that important. Just miscommunication about where we are. At this point, I'm still in line for masquerade check-in, and like that's what I'm focused on. And he goes, you're gonna have to come up to me. I don't have a badge and a cart with camera equipment. If you're going to Katsucon, and you know that Katsucon is a badge-only convention now, it is so extremely unprofessional for any any photographer to go to a convention and not buy a badge. I don't care if the convention is a badge-only convention or one that you can hallway con. I don't agree with hallway conning at all. I get a lot of, like, I'm poor, but I afford conventions because I run panels, so I get my tickets for free. I pay for the Airbnbs, the hotel's really far in advance, and I room with a lot of people. I find ways to get things cheaper so that I can still go to the con and support the con. When you run panels, you get a free ticket because you're supporting the convention by running things at it. So, like, I don't like hallway conning. I don't like when cosplayers do it. I don't like when photographers do it. It's really, really bad. It causes a lot of issues. It can literally cause the convention to get shut down because if the fire marshals come in and see that it is overcrowded, and half of that overcrowding is because of people without badges, hallway conning, it can get the whole convention shut down. So I just don't agree with hallway conning at all. And that's just so extremely unprofessional from any photographer. I don't care if it's kink, non-kink, if you're a cosplayer, whatever. That's so unprofessional. He said he's already been harassed twice about his equipment. I said, where are you? He said, go up to the escalators 1 level. And I was like, wait, on the 3rd level? I'm on the 2nd level. He's like, I'm pushing a stroller loaded with equipment. Where are you now? I said, in the lobby. He's like, in where lobby? Just miscommunication about where we are, which again, it's just very unprofessional. I feel like as a photographer, you should have a set meeting location or one that you both agree on. And before the convention, if you don't know where that meeting location is, you should find it so that you don't get lost. That's what I do whenever a photographer has a meeting place that I just said, like, okay, yeah, I'm fine with that. Thursday night, I walk around the convention and I find that meeting spot so that I know where it is and I don't get lost. It's basic things. It's not that hard. Okay. And then that pretty much just ends that because the only messages after the miscommunication are, I said, sorry, I'm throwing on some quick eyeliner. That was when I was texting him because we went to the Airbnb, found out we couldn't shoot there, like, for sure. And I was like, well, let me throw on my eyeliner because I forgot to do that, and then I'll be right back down. And he said, bring the rope with you, because he gave me the rope so I could, like, throw it on the bed and start helping him set up. And then he messages me after the shoot, a little bit, about an hour or two after the shoot. He says, I had a blast today. Don't forget to send me your email. Also, let's work out a date to do our bondage shoot. I wouldn't mind travel, or he said, I wouldn't traveling to you, but I think he meant I wouldn't mind traveling to you. And I just responded with my email. Nothing else. Because I was like, I don't want you to travel to me, come into my home, tie me up, and have no escort, no nothing, just let a total stranger into my room, my house and my room. Plus, my room is really, really small. Very small. There is no room to have photography equipment in my room. I've tried to do personal shoots in my room of my cosplays, and it's very difficult. Even this, I'm filming in the bathroom right now. I put a sheet up over where the shower curtain goes. Okay? Like, just no. So I only respond with my email. And then I hadn't heard anything back. Nothing. He hadn't sent me anything at all. And so on March 27th, I said, hey, just wondering when I might get my photos back. And he doesn't respond. And so on April 6th, I went, any word about my photos? And he didn't respond. And that's where we are today, and I'm pissed. I don't even want them edited. I don't want anything. And here's the thing. I did not tip him because I was so uncomfortable. Because I'm going to read Lili's messages with me, and then I'm going to go into how he treated me actually at the convention when we were in person. I'll tell you, I was uncomfortable. I had the money to tip him. I was prepared to tip him. No. So now I'm going to go into the text between me and Lili. This is a much shorter portion. Alright, so I had been speaking with Lili when I originally asked her, like, hey, you're escorting me for SciGuy already, would you escort me for this shoot? And then she said she was interested a little bit, so I was like, okay, cool. And then I sent her the screenshot saying that I quoted what she had said that she wanted me to relay, and then I sent the phone number, and I was like, this is his name. She goes, okay, thank you lots. Got it. And this is where the screenshots began. There's just a little bit of preface there that wasn't really directly involving him, so I didn't include the screenshots. I said, oh, also let me send you the list of instructions for the Saturday that the Saturday photographer sent out. And then I sent that list. So the reason I included this in the screenshots is because that was SciGuy's list of rules and regulations for his models and for his models' escorts. He has a very precise list of things that as a model you can do, you should do, and you should not do. Like, don't show up intoxicated, be completely sober, make sure you understand consent, make sure that you relay any feelings you're having to me if you're comfortable, uncomfortable, anything like that. Things for escorts, like, don't grab at the person, don't grab at the model without my permission because you could hurt something. Like, there's a lot of physical dangers involved with this, and just like all this stuff, which I found really comforting and really professional actually, because he had like a whole list set up ready to give to all of his models. She goes, for the Saturday one, I'm just an escort, right? Just chilling with you? And I went, yee! And super appreciate it, like really. Also, this Thunder dude is low-key creeping me out right now. Like, I'm pretty clearly only looking for a shoot, and he's like, yeah, I'll keep it professional during the shoot, but, wanna hook up? And I'm just kinda like, I've known you for 2 hours. And she goes, no problem, I totally get it, I've done it before, and I'll continue to. Also, so far from what he's asked me is which audience I want to appeal to the most, so I don't know yet, but I don't want either of us to be uncomfortable. Then I sent him sent her a screenshot of my text messages with Thunder and said, yeah, I just went right away with the I don't want to sleep with you. She goes, oof, yeah, that's exactly what he said to me. I honestly might just go with the routine with I have a boyfriend who is supporting the shoot, but that's it, LMAO. And I went, yeah, just make it super clear that you're in a monogamous relationship. She said, that's what I'm planning on, and I'll stick up for you if anything were to happen. I'm not afraid to draw attention if I need to. I'm like, mind you, like, while this is happening in my brain, I'm like, I'm still gonna have an escort. We have that safety net of having an escort. We're not going to be tied up at the same time, so there's nothing to worry about with that. Like, I felt like it's a lot safer when we've got 2 people, and I really wanted the experience of being in more rope. I really wanted to help someone else get that experience, so I was still kind of like, okay, not that big of a deal, we'll keep doing it. I said, I trust that he won't do anything during the shoot, to be honest, and I still hold true to that. I don't think that he would have tried to take advantage of us during the photo shoot. Afterwards is a different story. I can't say, I can't read minds, but the vibe that I get from him is like he really, really wanted to turn this into a play session, which I did not want it to be. I trust that he won't do anything during the shoot, to be honest, and if he does, it's good that I have a witness. I just keep standing my ground and making it clear I just want it to be a shoot. And then I went, me. I was hurt, so I set the rule not to get hurt again. Him one-ups me being hurt, and then I sent a screenshot, and I went, and she went, oof, he completely opened up super quick. Maybe he meant to say it to make us more comfy, but unsure. And then she sends me a screenshot where she just responded to something I can't see, or he responded to something that she had said. I can't see what she said, but his response was, good, it seems like we're all on the same page. I'm pansexual. As long as the attraction is there, I will sex ya up, regardless of sexual identity. But my goal isn't to get into your pants. It's to show you how beautiful you are through the camera.
Are you sure about that?
He sent this to me and asked about lunch too, and I went, yeah, he asked me too. She went, yeah, that's what he told me. I said, I can see his concern with meeting up though, because he does have a lot of camera equipment and he's worried about it being stolen going to a stranger's Airbnb. So I'm down if you are to meet him for a minute earlier on Friday if you are. She goes, I'm down for that as well. I get it too. Plus, it's always good to talk and get comfortable before we shoot, especially a lewd one. Said, I'm free around noon. If that works for you, we can all meet at the Starbucks. I'll be in Pirates Zethard at that point. She goes, I should be. I'll let you know when I get there. We're debating on when to leave and if we want to add an extra night to our hotel. And I said, okay, cool. And he said yes to that. And she went, that's great. And that was pretty much all that Lili and I had talked about before the convention for this shoot. So now we're going to go into how he treated me at the convention. So at the convention, we're like running around, well, I'm running around trying to find him. He's got security telling him, get out of the convention. You have a literal baby stroller full of equipment. You know it's a badge only thing. I honestly don't even know how he got through the doors, because anytime I went in, they were like real aggressive. I think he said that he still had to like get his badge or something, and they like didn't know the protocol because it was Friday and they let him in. I don't know. But he somehow got into the main lobby. So I'm running around, we're like calling each other back and forth. We finally find each other. And then I'm like, okay, I'm like really waiting for Lili. So I'm like, I don't want to do this alone. Lili's still in the registration line. And I'm like, I've got a panel soon. Like, and I got a panel in like 2 hours. Just like, Lili, come on. But Lili was stuck in the registration line and she didn't know when she was going to get out. And so I was just like, all right, we're in person. Too late to back out now. I feel like if it was over messages when this happened, I would have been more comfortable being like, don't have an escort, don't want to do it. But I just, because it's in person, I'm a lot more anxious in person, and I just went along with it, which I shouldn't have done. I admit that was a fault on my part. I should have asserted myself and been like, no, I don't want to do a bondage shoot without an escort because of our messages through text, and it just makes me uncomfortable. And I just don't know you that well. We didn't even have the opportunity to meet in the morning because he didn't come when he was supposed to. He was even late to our original meetup time, and we were supposed to meet earlier that day at the Starbucks, and he never was even there for that. But yeah, so the walk to my Airbnb was a very steep uphill, so getting back there was a lot harder than getting to the convention. But the walk back was very uphill, and I'm in Rave Sailor Jupiter, which it's pretty tight. It's like fishnets with some booty shorts, and my midriff is exposed, and I've got a bra that's stuffed because I don't have, I'm a man, they're not there. So like I've got like socks in there and stuff like that. So it's very like filled out. It is like a sexier version of the character because it's a rave outfit, and most rave outfits are sexy. I'm walking up in front of him because I'm leading the way to the Airbnb, and we're both like struggling because the hill is really steep, and it's like, okay, let's do it. But we didn't think that a lift would fit all the camera equipment. So we're struggling up the hill, and he makes a comment about how nice my ass is and how it's just motivating him to get up the hill. And I just kind of like, okay. And I just kept walking, and I was like, just not gonna address it. I think maybe once when he said something, I might have been like, oh yeah, it's a nice ass, because like, I'll be honest, I'm confident about my butt. I like my butt. But like, that just felt really uncomfortable to me. And then we showed up at the Airbnb, and my roommate was there, and I was like, in my head I was like, oh my god, thank god that she is here, because I will have someone here. And she's like, no, we're not shooting here. And I'm like, you right. And like, I really like needed, honestly, I needed that person to be like, no, not shooting here, not doing it. And I was like, guess we don't have anywhere to do a bondage shoot. oh well, and we talked about it, and I was kind of like, well, like, I've got to get ready for my panel, and he was like, well, I mean, you're still here, I've got all my equipment, why don't we just do a regular shoot? And I was like, okay, like, let's head back to the convention, we'll shoot outside, it's a nice day, let's just get some photos outside. And there's footage in my vlog of that sped up, and you can kind of see a little bit of what he was doing, and not very much, unfortunately, because I just didn't angle the camera right, but like, the whole time back, he's, like, complimenting my body, and it's, like, the way that it was just made me uncomfortable. Like, there's a right time to compliment someone's body and a wrong time, and, like, a wrong way, and he just kept talking about, like, how sexy and hot I am, and I was like, okay, nah, thanks, like, I think I just kept, like, nervously laughing it off. Mind you, this was a while ago, and this is a biased perspective. This is my truth. His truth is probably different, and I don't have him here to defend himself. So, like, take what I say with a grain of salt, because this is my truth in this situation. But I just kept kind of, like, laughing it off, and I was like, okay, okay. And in my head, I'm like, okay, let's just, like, do the shoot and be done. And as we start taking photos and stuff, like, he would listen to me for a bit about what photos I wanted, and then he'd be like, but let's get a sexy photo. And if you know anything about Sailor Jupiter, she's a very badass character. Like, she is not the kind of person who would be posing, like, ass out. You can't see my lower body, but she's not the kind of person who would be posing, like, ass out, boobs out, like, oh yes, hello, I'm so sexy. Yeah, like, that's not her character. She would be, like, if anything, for a sexy photo, she would be topping you. Like, she would be, like, dominatrix style, right? Like, that's her character. That's who she is. And he kept telling me to, like, do these things. He's like, oh, stick your butt out for this. And he'd, like, go under me and get, like, a straight up ass shot, you know, and, like, all these, like, sexy poses. Like, at one point he had me, like, doing this up against the wall, like, looking back, like, with my butt, like, really far out. And I was just, like, in my head, I was like, this really isn't Makoto. Like, this isn't her. This isn't in character. I don't like this, but I didn't have anyone with me, and I didn't know how to fully express myself, which is something that I'm still learning as a new submissive and fairly new to kink. Learning how to say that kind of stuff, and knowing I can say that with someone I'm comfortable with, but this is why I don't play with new people that I don't know, because I get like this, and I know that I get like this, and I don't want to put myself in a compromising situation, which somehow, without playing with this person, and without even doing a bondage shoot with this person, I still ended up in this uncomfortable situation. So he keeps, like, doing that over and over, where he's just getting all these sexy shots. And I will say, at one point he did actually do something that made me comfortable. I had some dirt on my shorts from when I was, like, kneeling down for a shot. And he was like, oh, hey, like, as he's getting a shot on my butt, he's like, hey, your shorts are a little dirty. I tried to pat it off, couldn't. He started to go for me, and then he was like, wait, he backed up, and he went, is it okay if I touch you to get that off? And, like, because it wasn't in a sexual context, it was, like, totally normal, and I'm totally fine with people touching me. Like, go for it, as long as it's not, like, an intimate touch. Like, I am, like, especially at conventions, I'm so loose at conventions. I'm like, you want to touch me, you want to hug me, you want to kiss me, just ask, let's go, right? Like, I'm really open about that kind of stuff at conventions. And so, like, I was really comfortable with the way that that happened, and I was like, yeah, sure. And I allowed him to touch me. I was comfortable with the way that he touched me. He kept it quick. I will say that's something that he did do very professionally, and that one part did actually make me feel comfortable. Out of all this other stuff, that one part made me feel comfortable. So I will give that to him. But yeah, like, it just ended on a note where he, like, the last shot we did was the, like, against the wall looking back one, and, like, I kept telling him that I, like, what the character was like, and I kept, like, rephrasing, like, she's this really big badass, she really wouldn't be doing these kinds of poses, I want to get in character, like, fighting poses, stuff like that, and he would be like, okay, we'll do, like, 1 or 2 fighting poses, and then he would go back to sexy poses, and I was just like, Okay. So like when we ended the shoot, I was like, I know he was like, okay, well, I want to go get dinner. And I was like, yeah, I gotta go get ready for my panel. I gotta go find that. And I would have tipped him, except for the fact that it was such a terrible experience. This is normally the point where I would have been like, here's your tip. But I did not, because I had a really bad experience. So I was just like, bye, and like left for the convention, went inside the convention where it was badge only. Yeah, so that pretty much ends the interactions that I had with him, and he has not given me back my photos. And I think, like, on one hand, like, I didn't pay for the photos. I gave him no monetary compensation. I didn't buy him lunch, nothing like that. I know I had someone, when I was talking about this a lot on Facebook, someone said you should threaten to sue him. I didn't hand him any money, so I have no grounds to sue him on. Plus that, suing someone costs so much money. But just, it's the fact that he has these photos of me in sexual positions that I have no access to. I have no clue if he has or hasn't done anything with them. He's not contacted me once. He's ignored the 2 times that I've tried to contact him. I haven't tried to contact him again through Fetlife. I might try and do that because his wife is also on the account. I am going to be sending him this video because here's the thing. I don't wish him any ill will. While yes, this is a warning video for kink cosplayers who might be considering working with him if he reaches out to them, I genuinely do think that he can improve himself and get better, and I did ask the people that I interviewed different ways that he could improve himself to make their models more comfortable and all of that. I genuinely hope that he does understand what all the things that went wrong in this situation so that he doesn't do this to another model again. Because I think that he does have potential. I think that he has a lot to learn. I think that as far as the professional aspect of kink goes, he's still relatively new to it. I don't know how long he's been involved in kink in general, in the community, if he goes to dungeons, anything like that. But like, professional-wise, he very clearly is new to it. I really think that he has the potential to improve and change. I don't want this to be like a cancel culture thing where everyone's like, just absolutely never work with him again. I think he just needs to take a step back, really evaluate what happened. His truth might be different than my truth. I don't believe that he did any of this out of any malice, ill intent, ill will, anything like that. I genuinely just think that it was him not being experienced and not realizing, no matter how many times I said I didn't want to talk about this stuff, that what he was saying was inappropriate and not okay. I'm just going to go into the interviews from here. I don't really have anything more to say with that. Yeah, again, this was ThunderousPAWG on Fetlife, the husband in the relationship. And that was my experience and my truth of working with him and why I'll never work with him again. And I just want my photos back. Like, honestly, I don't care if they're edited or not. I have no idea what these photos look like. I have no idea what has been done with these photos. I think I saw the preview of them and I barely even remember that. And can I just have my photos back so we can be done with this? I'm probably not even going to post most of them. I might post maybe 1 or 2 of the poses that I suggested. But even then, I don't know, honestly, because this whole situation has just been so much. And I just want to move on and forget that not forget, but just like move on from this, step past this, and not have it be a part of my life directly anymore. Yeah, so we're gonna go into the interviews now. No, okay, cool. Just so I like know how to say it. But just like tell me, so I remember like I have it in my receipts and everything that I was talking with him on FetLife and then he gave me his phone number and I passed that along to you. And I had been kind of like sharing messages with you where I was like, yo, what the hell? Like this dude's kind of creepy.
So, like, can you just tell me, like, when he started talking to you, I know you said you lost your text messages, so unfortunately we don't have the receipts for that, but, like, just kind of what vibe he gave you and sort of how he was treating you and stuff.
He gave me, like, a very kind of upfront and just weird vibe overall, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't super duper comfortable with him, and it just was weird because I felt like he was trying to, like, get sex out of this whole thing, which is...
Yeah, that was really the vibe I got too.
I didn't like it. He kept saying, like, oh, like, what kind of audience do you want to appeal to? Like, I just want to try and capture that in the photos, and which I get, but
Yeah, the audience thing I kind of understand.
yeah, but it's just the way he was saying it was kind of making it, like...
Do you have like a specific example of the way he said it? Because I know like he said some things to me where like if it was in context of something we were doing, like when we were out doing just our regular photo shoot, because we ended up not being able to do the bondage one, I was cosplaying Makoto. Like she's like this big badass, like she's like this super tough girl, and she would never be like sticking her ass out for upward ass shots, you know? And he's like telling me to like he's like, oh here, like let me like get down and get like this really nice ass shot where you're it's like stick your butt out like really far. Oh, that's so sexy. And it was like if we were in the situation where we were doing a bondage photo shoot and that was specifically the kind of photo I was going for that character, that would have been like a lot more acceptable, but it wasn't for what we were doing. So like do you have kind of any examples of anything like that for what you did? If not, like that's totally fine, and like I'm glad that he didn't.
Well, I'm just trying to like remember what he said to me. He complimented me on my body shape. I remember that, and he was just kind of like, "Oh, that's so sexy. Like chubby girls are so sexy." And I'm like, I get that's someone's body type, but I'm still very like, don't say that if I don't know you. If
Yeah.
it's like he was just very upfront and very honest about everything he was doing, which it's good, it's fine.
But it's not professional, you know?
It's not,
Yeah. Like I get that. It's like he was talking sort of like as if you were someone that he met on Fetlife to sleep with and not someone that he met on Fetlife to have a professional photo shoot with, you know? And like it's one of those things like there's nothing wrong with talking like that with someone who you want to play with, who you've established we're talking because we want to play together. Like there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like he never really kept that professional relationship, and like he did it to, it seems like, both of us.
Yeah, I felt like he definitely wasn't just trying to get a photo shoot out of this. I definitely feel like that. I definitely feel like he was trying to get somewhere farther, like, with us, especially with the unprofessionalism of, like, not having the ticket for KatsuCon, like you told me. It's very...
That is so unprofessional.
It is. Especially, like, if you're meeting someone to do a photo shoot at Katsu, why would you not have a ticket for Katsu?
Especially since they made it badge only. Like, everyone knew that they made it badge only because it was overcrowded. I know their official reason was, like, a shooting threat or something, but it was just overcrowded. And it needed the badge only policy. But, like, wow. And, like, I feel like there's some sort of leniency because he did give me this photo shoot for free because he was like, hey, I'm new to rigging. Like, I've rigged people before, but I've never done, like, photo shoots for it. Like, I do photography, and, like, I have prices for that. I do rigging, but it's more so, like, with people that I play with and nothing, like, professional. I'm trying to get into both. And so that's why he offered me the shoot for free. And, like, originally, I was going to tip him pretty well. I was going to tip him, like, $40 or $50. And, like, you know, like, you're still doing a lot of work. It's your time, it's your art, like, all that. And then he did all of this, and I was like, goodbye. And now he won't even give me my photos back. And I'm like...
Ridiculous how he's not even giving you your photos back. Like, I feel like he's not giving them back because it didn't go where he wanted to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I even have like his last message to me was like, "Oh, hey, like if you want to meet up anytime, like just let me know. I don't mind traveling to you and like give me your email so I can give you the photos." And I'm like, "Well, you already have my email." Like in my head I'm thinking this, but I gave him my email again and I just left it at that. Like I just responded with my email and I did not respond to any of the like, "I'm fine with traveling to you. Like if you want to try the shoot again." And I was like,
That's not what I wanted.
no, no, that's not like stop. And like I even pointed out to him multiple times that I was uncomfortable with the conversation. And like he would stop for a minute and then go again. And like I was wondering, did he do anything like that to you? Like did you ever say anything like, "Hey, I'm uncomfortable with this," and he stopped or he didn't stop or
I feel like, because I remember I told you that I was just gonna go the route, like, oh, hey, I have a boyfriend, to just try and get him to backpedal or something.
Yeah, I think I have that screenshot.
And then he just kept going with it. Like, he completely dismissed the fact that I had a partner and just kept going with the weird comments and the weird everything.
Yeah. And it's like, on one hand, I can see, like, from the perspective of a person who is polyamorous, like, in your head, you forget that people are monogamous sometimes, but, like, as a polyamorous person, it's your responsibility to respect other people's monogamy. And, like, if I start hitting on someone and I find out that they have a partner and that they are completely monogamous and don't want to invite anyone else into the relationship, it's my responsibility as the open party to not continue. Like, same with him. So the fact that he did that is like
annoying and like just kind of like I get it. Yeah. It was very weird. I was definitely uncomfortable during it, and I know I left him on red multiple times just because, one, I didn't know how to respond, and two, I didn't know how to stop the conversation without him getting defensive and me seeming like an asshole for the comments he was making. So he would just keep texting me about it. Like he'd double text, and I remember he texted me before Katsucon and I just left him on red again because I was uncomfortable.
Yeah. So I'm curious if because I know like at Katsucon you were still pretty freshly 18 and still really new to the kink community, like really only getting involved with it because I was like, "Hey, can you like come with me to this other shoot that I have?" And then you were like, "Oh, I'm interested, like I want to try this." Did he have any knowledge of like how new you were to the kink community or your age?
He knew I was very new to the kink community. He knew I had never tried bondage before but was very interested in it. And I don't know for certain if I told him my age, but I have a feeling I did. I just don't remember for sure if I told him.
Okay. Because I know I believe I'll have to look through his Fetlife, but I believe he's in like his late 20s, early 30s, something like that. So it's like, we've got someone, when you're 18, like someone being in their early 30s can be almost double your age. Like, so it's like, and mind you, like I'm 20, I'm not that much older, but like it's still, there's a difference because I've been in the community a little bit longer because I've been of age longer, even with like, I'm still new to the community. I'm still learning a lot about it. And I only know as much as I do because of all the education that's out there. But it's just like the fact that he continued to go on knowing that you're new to the community, knowing that you're vulnerable because when you're new, you don't have that education behind you. Like, and like, again, like even with me being pretty new to it, like I've got that education and I've still done things that got me hurt. Like I've still done stupid things. And like, even this situation where I was like, well, you weren't able to make it because you still had to get your ticket and I was alone with him. And I was like, well, let's still try and have the bondage shoot. And like in my head, I was kind of like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this is so stupid. But like, I didn't know how to like say no all the way in that situation.
It was kind of the same with me, like through text. Like I get that completely. It's just I didn't know how to voice my opinion because I didn't want to seem like that person.
Yeah, and it's like for me it was like a lot easier over text because I know like I can be like really direct, really solid, but it's like there's something a lot more intimidating when someone who, like, most people aren't taller than me. Like, I'm usually taller than people. And, like, someone being taller than me, which is, like, a thing that intimidates me. And someone who is a dom and, like, has so much more experience than me. Like, all of a sudden, I just, like, didn't know how to fully say no. And it's, like, I feel like he has the potential to not be a creep, but he just doesn't know how to do it. But you did actually go with me as an escort to SciGuy's shoot. So can you talk about the difference of how SciGuy made you feel and how you saw him talking with me versus how Thunder made you feel?
He didn't start off anything with immediately complimenting your body or something. He didn't make me feel uncomfortable being in the room.
And to preface, you had not spoken to him previously. You'd only seen his rules on how to be an escort properly without harming me or getting in the way of anything.
Yeah, and he was so comfortable. Like, he made me so comfortable, and I know he made you comfortable just by your body language and your reactions to everything. And he was just so nice and so welcoming. It just...
Yeah.
It was a completely different atmosphere than just the text that we had with Thunder. It's just so... It was like a complete 180 change.
Was there anything, like, specific you can think of that made you more comfortable? Like, any ways that he said things differently? Even if, because there were times that he complimented my body, but he did it in a way that was appropriate. Like, do you remember any of those? Or, like, anything that just made you specifically feel comfortable?
I think just talking to him about sorry.
You're good.
I think you just talking to him about what had happened on Friday before just kind of made me more comfortable around him, being like, oh, that's so stupid, like, and how you said he complimented you on your ass, and then him just being like, well, it is a good ass, and you just come back immediately like, oh, I know.
Yeah, like, he had that, like, joking tone where it was, like, a lot more comfortable.
It was just, like, a fun atmosphere, and he was genuinely trying to make you comfortable and me comfortable as well. And it's just, he knew what he was doing, and he knew how to go around doing it without making us feel uncomfortable or being hurt. He had a professionalism about it, which was really, really good. He was amazing.
So he, even though he did say, like, some sort of, like, some stuff about my body that was, like, complimenting it, you felt comfortable the way that he said it, and, like, you were in the room, you could read the vibe.
Yeah, and he was saying it in, like, I guess a manner of being nicer about it, because we knew he does have a partner or a wife. I can't remember.
I believe he has a wife, yeah.
Yeah, I know he has someone in his life, but I know they're not. I don't know if they're married. But the fact that he told us immediately about that and said something, oh yeah, she does this, and she can help me with this, and she's here, just kind of made me feel a bit more comfortable, like, oh, he's not trying to get anything out of this. Like,
Yeah. I don't actually know if him and his wife do play around with other people. They might not. But, like, he never came off as, like, we're looking for someone to play with.
Yeah, like, he came off very professional about it. Like, he had you immediately sign that waiver. He had you immediately sit down. Well, not sit down, but stand and hold his hand and be like, are you comfortable? Are you okay? Are you ready to do this? And I don't know, I didn't feel like we had that with Thunder. Or you had that with Thunder, I should say.
Yeah. So, like, just from the little bit, like, try to ignore kind of the things that I've told you. I know that's hard to do because I was telling you, like, the whole time what was happening, and I was like, But, like, just from the little bit of conversation that you had with Thunder and what you saw of Psy, because you didn't have any conversation with him, but other than when we were in the room, but you were my escort, like, comparing the way that the two interacted with you, how would you, like, kind of compare that?
Sai was definitely more professional. Like, I know I say that a lot with him, but he definitely was. He knew how to make me comfortable in the room and how to not make me feel like, oh, she's just there to be there. And with Thunder, I saw no professionalism with him, other than the fact that, like, he was trying to get to know me a little bit, because we had never met before, or as talked as much as you guys had, and he just immediately went to just, like, how do you want to appeal, like, how do you want to look, like, complimenting me and just making, like, unnecessary comments, while Sai didn't do that.
Yeah.
He just made the air, like, the atmosphere more confidence filled and just comfortable.
No, it does. It makes a lot of sense. No, because the reason I'm bringing up Sai is because we both did have such a positive experience with him, me being tied up by him and you being my escort. Like, we both have nothing but good to say about him. We're going to be working together with him in the future and both being tied up by him, like, because he was just such a good professional experience versus what we had with Thunder. And it's like, I feel like some people are gonna see this who maybe aren't that big into the kink community, who are just gonna be like, well, it's a kinky photo shoot, what did you expect? But even in the, like, porn industry and anything like that, there are professional ways to go about these sorts of things. And I feel like Sai, like, really embodies that professionalism. Even, like, I know he friends a lot of his models on his personal page, which, like, I'm friends with him on his personal Facebook, and, like, we talk every now and then, and I've even sent him, like, some like, nude photos of myself, like, when I got one of my new toys and I was, like, super excited about it, and he was like, oh, that sounds so cool, and I was like, you want to see? Like, because, like, I like sharing those photos, and he made that atmosphere with me comfortable enough where I felt, like, where I felt like I could do that, and it wasn't like he was instantly gonna try and, like, hit on me and, like, you know, like, take it, and, like, yeah, I would, like, send him a photo of, like, the tail that I got, and he would be like, oh man, that's really hot, but it was, like, in context, and then it sort of dropped, you know? So it's like, even when we did break that professional barrier, he still wasn't a creep.
And I know he's done that with me too, because he follows me now on Instagram, and he'll, like, go to my stories and be like, I would love to tie you up with this, like, in this specific cosplay. I'm like, dude, I'm down, that's great. And then we would just carry on as a normal conversation and talk and just kind of, like, catch up like friends.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like we had that with Thunder. He would just immediately make it about the kink and about tying up, and that was it.
Yeah, and, like, he even, like, in our text, he, like, started talking to me about other things, and at one point, like, he was talking to you, mind you, like, while I'm talking to me, sorry, while I'm crunching for my competition piece that I'm, like, really focusing on because it's a competition piece, and I told him, I was like, hey, I'm working on cosplay right now, I'm busy, that's why I'm slow, and, like, at one point, he just goes, like, so how do you feel about latex? And I was like, did I not 2 sentences earlier say that I did not want to talk about our kink life? Like, did I not say that? And he was like, oh, well, I only said that because I had a Batman costume that was latex. And I was like, okay, I don't care. Like, and I don't know, like, I just felt so, like, I wanted to, like, stop talking with him. Like, with Sai, I didn't really get that. Like, from day one, I'd had, like, comfortable, easy conversation with Sai. And, like, just with Thunder, it was any conversation, I was like, I just want to get my point across and be done with this. Is there anything else that you can think to add to this, though, of anything that, like, you felt, any last statements?
No, it was just once again, he didn't feel very professional. He felt like he was only in it for seeing us, if that makes sense. Like, that's
Yeah, that does.
all I felt.
I'll be honest, I kind of thought that too, but I didn't really want to say it. And like, I remember there were things when he was talking where he was like, oh, well, would you want to do like nipple clamps or something like that? And I was like, well, one, I'm cosplaying a girl and I'm a man who doesn't have boobs. So like, that wouldn't work because there's no boobs there. So it doesn't fit the character. So I've got to keep the stuffed bra on. And two, I don't like nipple clamps because my nerves are still growing back in from top surgery. So like, this shouldn't have even been brought up. Like, they're not something that I want to do in the shoot. They're not something that I've talked about doing in the shoot. We've talked specifically about shibari, and that's all that I've said that I wanted. And like, he kept trying to like bring in things about like toys and stuff like that and like possible other shoots. And I was like, can we focus on this one shoot that I've said I just wanted a cosplay bondage shoot. I don't want, like, even though it would be nice to, like, in my personal life, get those more, like, porn-like photos for shibari and stuff, that's not what I want to do with my cosplay. I want to keep my NSFW cosplay photos a little bit more safe for work. I want to keep them clothed, even if it's just, like, a pair of underwear. Like, I want to keep all genitalia covered, stuff like that, because I really want to stay true to the character. And I remember there was one point with the shoot with Sai where I was in Yuzana from Fire Emblem, and he asked if I wanted to do like an ass in the air shot. And I thought about it, and I said no, not because I was uncomfortable with doing it, but because it didn't fit the character. And I was like Yuzana's like a noble lord. Like, he wouldn't be like sticking his ass up, you know? Like, it wouldn't work. And so like Sai immediately was like, okay. And, like, didn't push it, you know?
And I remember with Sai, it was your robe was starting to fall down and kind of, like, expose your chest, and he just immediately went, I'm gonna move this, no nipple.
Mm-hmm.
I remember he did that. And, with Thunder, it's not the same thing as what Sai did, I should say. But I remember with Thunder, we had started talking, and he was like, oh, well, do you want to send me a photo of your body? And I'm like, no.
Whoa, I had no idea that he said that to you.
It wasn't just kind of like, oh, show me, like, because he was talking, he was like, well, what's your body shape? I guess to just be, like, I don't know, like,
I'm not a rigger, so I can't really say, but that's, like, I've only ever rigged myself, and I don't know anything about the body. Like, I don't know anything about nerves, any of that stuff. So I can't really say, but, like, that just seems really fishy to me. And, like, maybe he didn't ask me that because he did have me through Fetlife, and I do have photos of my body on Fetlife, but, like, I had no idea he said that to you.
Like, I was so new, like, I didn't know much about it, that I didn't take it as a second thought of, oh, you know, da-da-da-da, and I'm like, I don't have any of myself, I have some in my cosplay if you want to see, like, I just sent him the one photo of my Mount Lady and be like, see, I'm chubby, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you right now, that's probably not what he wanted, but I'm too new to know these things, you know?
Yeah, that's just... Wow, I didn't know that he said that. And, like, I'm gonna try and get in contact with Sai as well, because he's been following me, like, posting about being pissed off about this on Facebook, and he's been like, yo, this is terrible, I can't believe you had to deal with this. So I'm gonna try and do a Skype call with him as well, and get, from a professional rigger's aspect, like, the things that he did, how they were unprofessional, what he could do to change them, stuff like that. But just, like, I'm gonna have to ask about that body thing, because that's the fact that he asked for a picture of your body, like, Jesus.
Like I said, like, then I didn't think twice about it, but now that, like, now I am, because I don't know, like,
yeah,
was it because different bodies can do different things, or, like, can't do some certain things with bondage, or was it just the fact that he just wanted to see my body?
Yeah. And I will say, like, even the photos that he sent me, because I remember before I even, like, told you, like, hey, there's this person, the photos that he'd sent me of examples that I asked for, because, you know, he said he was new to rigging, and I was like, I don't mind working with someone who's new to rigging. Like, he says he's rigged other people, and I was like, just can I have some photos of your work? And he sent me 2 photos, and both of them were only chest harnesses, and both models had like nothing covering their nipples or anything like that. And I just found that kind of like interesting that he doesn't have any examples of his work that aren't in a fully sexual situation, you know? Because like shibari is one of those things that doesn't have to be inherently sexual. And if you're trying to show off your rope work and your artwork through that, you should have examples that have people in their underwear or clothed or anything. And like, he didn't have any.
I feel like that was his just end goal, was to just end with naked ones, if that makes sense. Because he was just so just inclined to do that, or so like, hey, what about this, or what about this, that involve being naked with it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for like answering questions about this and just like relaying your experience with him. It's gonna be like kind of helpful for like evidence on like why he wasn't that great to work with. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna try and get in contact with Sci, like not that I don't talk with him, but get like him on video and see if he can sort of answer some questions too. Yeah, but thank you so much for doing this. Thank you. That's pretty much all that I need. So, unfortunately, I lost the video for my interview with Rhiley, but she did say that she wanted her face blurred anyways, so I'm just gonna be restating my questions and playing her answers, and I'm gonna put some pictures up or something just for some visuals while this is going on. So, how long have you been doing fetish modeling?
I first did like my first like not safe for work like official shoot at like Katsucon last year, so it's just been a bit over a year.
So please correct me if I'm wrong, but if I am correct, you are dating Dark Fox Photography, and you started dating him after you had a photo shoot with him as a kink rigger, correct?
Yeah.
So can you describe to me what your first encounters with Dark Fox Photography were like from a professional standpoint? Was there any flirting going on before you guys started dating during this professional shoot, or did that start happening after? And what kind of conversation did you two have before the shoot and during the shoot?
So we initiated I actually was the one who initiated and asked him to shoot through Instagram, and we messaged through that, and we got the logistics sorted down, so when we would be doing it, where we'd be doing it, and what exactly we wanted to do. And then he had asked me a bunch of questions that all pertained to what exactly I was comfortable with. So I'm trying to go through this because we talk about this kind of stuff all the time, but it's just a matter of professional negotiation as to what you're comfortable with, what your boundaries are, medical history, and any trauma, just to make sure that you are in your most comfortable position. And we talked a lot about that beforehand, before we even got to the shoot, just to make sure that I was as comfortable as possible. And he gave me a lot of warnings as to what kind of stuff would go on during the shoot, and then just asked, because there was oh, are you comfortable, how comfortable are you with just physical touch and all that. So it was all very professional, I can tell you that.
All right, that's really awesome to hear. So you saw the screenshots that I sent you, and that side of it, which I feel like is the most unbiased that I can get. Can you please tell me sort of what your opinion of how everything was stated and how he spoke and everything as a fetish model, about what he said? Like, what's your opinion about it?
Immediately, it just seemed very unprofessional and very uncomfortable. Like, even if it wasn't for a shoot, if it was for like a legitimate like session, like play session, outside of photography and stuff, it still seemed very uncomfortable and very forceful. Um, like there wasn't any, like as far as I could tell, like true like negotiation. As far as like I read, there was like it was way more like asking you more personal questions than should have been asked in the first place.
And I do believe that you know who SciGuyRope is, correct?
Yeah.
And have you shot with him at all?
I haven't. I haven't. I recently started talking to him and we want to shoot together, but our schedules are conflicting, so we won't be able to, at least for a while.
All right. So even though you haven't shot with him, you've like spoken with those models and stuff like that. Could you just tell me a little bit about just what you've seen of him and the experience you have with him, whether it was professional or not, stuff like that?
The vibes that I get from him are much more um, like my boyfriend before we started dating. I shot with him before we started dating, so I got very similar vibes from the both of them, and Sai just seems much more professional and much more respectful of his models.
So I do apologize, but I'm going to be asking quite a few questions pertaining to Dark Fox, just because you guys did start out in that professional relationship and it did develop into those romantic feelings. So I was just wondering if you could possibly talk a little bit how it originally started. Were you guys talking strictly professionally, or did you flirt as well? And when did the romantic feelings sort of start, and what the sexual feelings as well? And like, did you guys keep that separate from the professional shoots?
Okay, so originally, like when I originally shot with Dark Fox, I was in another relationship which ended pretty soon after, but for unrelated reasons. But after the shoot, we continued talking and we got a lot closer, and everything just kind of fell into place. It wasn't anything like him being super forceful. We just had very natural conversations and got to know a lot about each other.
All right, so it developed naturally.
Yes, how you would expect any relationship to happen.
So, what kind of communication does Dark Fox Photography use with you, that let you know that he was safe and professional, and just things that you found overall that he did very well that we did not see from Thunder?
So the things that I definitely see, especially like because we still negotiate and stuff now, because we still do like group stuff now, but like he always checks about like physical health things to make sure that like whatever positions I'm going to be in the rope won't like hurt me, and it's just a lot of making sure that you're in the most comfortable space, and I didn't get really any of that when I was looking through your messages with Thunder. It was a lot more like, okay, we're gonna do this shoot and I'm gonna tie you up, blah blah blah, and then it was very short. You didn't really have any negotiation, and he just went straight into asking personal questions, which he spent no time actually talking about what you guys were going to do. It meant way out of your professional like talk.
So, have you seen at all how Dark Fox talks with his other models, or have you been in any sessions with his other models or anything like that?
I haven't been there while they shoot, but I do know some of the models that he does shoot with. Some of them are like his personal friends and stuff. I don't personally like actually see like their interactions. I think that like he keeps everything pretty private because he doesn't want to share like other people's personal like information and stuff like that. It's something like he's always been like that, like even if it comes to just talking about other people, he was like, that's their personal business, I'm not sharing it with you, even though like I'm one of the closest people to him. But I still like know that I can trust him to work with other models and just have a professional like relationship with them.
All right, so it's actually like really good that he doesn't share a lot of that with you. But because originally what I was trying to kind of get to there was how much you knew about how he treats other models, and if he treats you the same as the way he initially treated, or he treats them the same as he initially treated you. But from what it sounds like you know some of them, you're friends with some of them, and that they don't have anything bad to say about him, which is really great to hear, that he does give that professional environment with everyone, and really great to hear that he does keep that confidentiality as well. During this part that I cut out, I was explaining to Rhiley the interaction that I had in person with Thunder, which you already saw at the beginning of this video, so just to cut some of that out and shorten the time, I edited that part out. Alright, so now knowing a little bit more of my perspective of what happened, which keep in mind is going to be a biased perspective, but of what happened in person, how do you believe that you would have reacted or possibly felt, and do you think that maybe my reactions were justified or possibly a little bit too dramatic, or like honest opinions? Like, what do you feel about that?
Judging from like how the like your interactions beforehand in messages and then like how he was acting at the shoot, I would have felt like as uncomfortable as you were. Like, I get that kind of comment fairly often from photographers, not necessarily like the photographers that I choose to work with, but just like once I meet at cons who just ask for my photo in the hall. But as like a professional photographer for like a shoot that you guys organized, it's completely inappropriate. Like, if you had known each other like better, and like if you were close enough to get to that point where you guys were comfortable talking to each other like that, I don't think it would have been as much of like a big deal, but that isn't the case. And like, it obviously made you uncomfortable, and if he couldn't understand that, I would have just been insanely uncomfortable. The only thing that I could, like, from what you told me, the only thing that I saw that he was really doing right was, like, before touching you, he asked, which is, like, something that, like, my boyfriend always makes a point of, because he's someone who will, like, oh, if your wig is, like, in your face, he'll come up and be like, can I touch your face, and get the wig out of the way. Like, he will always ask before touching, like, the model to, like, adjust something. That's the only thing out of all of that that I could see that was any sort of, like, right.
So, reading over the messages that I sent you, like, which is, I feel like, the most unbiased that I can get, do you think that I was being assertive, or was I possibly not assertive enough in my standpoint? Like, was the point gotten across that I was trying to make, that I did not want this to be a play session and I wanted this to be a photography session, or was I not clear enough?
I think that you were, like, super assertive about all of it. I think that, like, it was very clear, especially just from me reading screenshots. You were like, please stop, I don't want to talk about this. Like, you, like, directed the conversation in a different way to, like, show that you were uncomfortable talking about certain things. Like, you would answer questions, but you wouldn't give him, like, in-depth things. And I think that sometimes, just, like, from my experience, guys don't take hints even if they're very, like, direct. It's like, I could even say to people, like, hey, I'm not comfortable with that, and they'll still do it, and that's just how some people are. I think that you're very direct with how you were speaking and how you were expressing your discomfort, and he still, like, wasn't taking your word directly from you that you were uncomfortable. And it was very just, it just didn't put him in a good like position out of his own like misconduct right there.
So, based off what you know about him, and trying to ignore the slight biases that I would have, would you ever work with him or recommend any other fetish bondage models work with him?
I wouldn't recommend anyone like work with him, just from my like how I saw his interactions with you, because they're insanely unprofessional. And even if it's only like he only acted like that with you, because I think you said that when he was talking with Lili he was much more professional, but if he was even considering acting like that towards another client, I think that like just even that, even if it just happens once, it still isn't okay, and I would not recommend anyone work with him, and I definitely wouldn't work with him.
So, what kind of changes would you recommend to Thunder that he make if you were to recommend him as someone to shoot with? Like, what would he have to do to sort of make amends for this situation, and to redeem himself within the community to start getting kink work again?
I think like just from like what I saw, like his interactions with you and prepping for the shoot, I think that he needs to go back and completely revise how he prepares for a shoot, and needs to be like concise, and needs to be like it needs to be much more professional. Like it's okay to put it in a way that you can have a conversation about it, but it's still like you need to ask all these questions to make sure that your model or whatever is like comfortable and safe, because safety is like number one priority in anything like that. In order to redeem himself, I think he'd probably need to take a step back and revise everything. And if he can prove that he can act professionally and not harass people, and like asking for photos like that is completely and utterly unprofessional. I have never actually had a photographer that I've worked with ask for photos like that. And the only photographers that I've heard of who do are ones that are in the spotlight because they've done something bad, like Eugene Manning, EMP photography. Like he is one of those like people like notorious for like being creepy, and one of the things he always does is like he'll ask for photos of like a model, or like just asking for photos, especially photos of like someone's body. Like if they don't have like something to go off of, like an Instagram or something, like I guess like, hey, if you can show me some of your cosplays and like the photos and stuff that you've done before, then it's okay. But like just asking someone straight up for photos is really unprofessional and really creepy. But if he can show that he can work professionally and work safely and respectfully, then I think he could redeem himself, but it may take a while.
So the word professional keeps getting tossed around a lot by both of us, and I was wondering if you could just sort of explain to me what you believe a professional bondage or rigging photographer is, how they act, and things that just come off to you as professional, and possibly give some examples.
Like the only like rigger that I've actually worked with is my boyfriend, but we just worked as a strictly like model and like rigger / photographer before we got together. But someone I always like look for is one that they already have like a portfolio. Even if it isn't like a public portfolio, they have some sort of portfolio to show, and two, that they know what they're doing and can demonstrate that they care about safety by actually negotiating, because that's one thing I know in like kink in general is negotiating is like number one thing. If you can't do that, then you don't deserve to be in that position. so I always look for like a portfolio and like negotiating and like talking about safety. Most would not go into personal questions unless they were specifically relevant to whatever you were doing. So like when I was originally negotiating with my boyfriend for our first shoot, we did get into some like personal stuff, but it was only because it could affect my safety, like physically or mentally, during the shoot. So
Could you possibly, or would you be comfortable giving an example of a personal question that would be okay? If not, I completely understand. It is your body, your story, all of that. So just if you have an example that you're comfortable sharing with, that would be really awesome. If not, don't worry about it.
no. So one thing that my boyfriend always asks is like is there any trauma that he needs to be aware of? Because some people can get like claustrophobic, or they will have like a panic attack because something could be triggered by whatever is happening during like the shoot or the scene. So it's like he will start like basically, and I know that I had trouble like trying to think of stuff because I'm just a little bit scatterbrained.
Oh my gosh, no, you're fine. I know this is like all on the spot.
Yeah, it's okay. But so like I had trauma regarding like my mental health and self-harm, so I made him aware of that, and that's something that I don't tell necessarily everyone, but it was something that was relevant because it could affect how I was during the shoot. And yeah, so like getting in like talking about that kind of stuff is okay, and like just like body stuff, like stuff specifically relating to your body, but don't be the one to be super direct about asking about certain things. Keep questions more like vague and general so that the model themselves, if they feel comfortable, will tell the like photographer / rigger or whatever about it.
All right, and what are some things that would tip you off that someone is not being professional before or during a shoot?
Like someone who won't outwardly like just straight up like flirt with you, like Thunder did. Like someone who will actually just respect you and act as if it's just a business thing, because if they can't act like it's just like a professional like client and photographer, etc. Sorry, I have so much stuff going on around me. But if they can't act like it's just a like professional relationship, then I don't think that they can be considered a professional.
All right, awesome. Do you have anything else that you think you'd like to add that might give any more insight to the situation, possibly?
Not that I can really think of. No.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me for this interview. All right, awesome. So thank you for joining me again. So some of this stuff is going to sound a little bit repetitive to us. I'm going to be asking the same questions, and I still want you to give the same honest answers. But unfortunately, I did lose the audio that we had. It just didn't record properly. I'm very new to doing this whole interview thing, so I've had a lot of trial and error with this. But can you please start by talking about what you do professionally in the kink community and how long you've been involved with that?
Sure. So I've been part of the larger kink community for about 12 or 13 years. I've been primarily a rope rigger and educator, mostly going to non-kink events, anime conventions, gaming conventions, and bringing the good word of kink to the masses. Mostly because there's a lot of overlap between the geek and kink communities, but a lot of them don't know there is a community, So I want to make sure that they're aware that there's a community and that there are resources to help them, and so on and so forth. Professionally, I do rope and I do photography, and I've been doing that for about 3 years professionally.
All right, cool. So can I have your opinions as a professional rigger on the mannerisms of Thunder and his treatment towards Lili and I from what you saw?
So in broad strokes, it was extremely unprofessional in general. Just the way that he spoke to you and Lili betrayed that, one, I'm not sure he knew what he was doing to begin with regarding rope. I'm not sure that he knew what he was doing regarding general, like, kinkness, like how to get proper consent, how to respect consent, and also how to just generally, like, behave in those sorts of situations. Because in the community, we develop a sense of, you know, how to be gentle about things because of how dangerous general kink, like, encounters can be. So just overall, he was unprofessional, he was unfriendly, and kind of creepy.
Yeah, so can you describe a little bit for me really quick? Because I actually asked Rhiley this question. Just what professionalism within the professional kink world means to you, because this word is getting thrown around a lot, and I don't want it to not have a meaning.
Yeah, sure. So professional is not personal. So when I'm discussing tying someone up in a personal, like, play situation, I use vastly different language as when I'm doing something professionally, because when it's professional, I'm treating that person like a client, like we're, you know, working together for a goal. And just like how you wouldn't, you know, call your coworker, you know, baby doll or sweetie or honey, well, most of us wouldn't anyway. You wouldn't use, you know, pet names. You wouldn't, you know, discuss things that were unrelated to the work you were doing together. So him going on about, you know, asking about other fetishes and other things you want to play with and stuff like that is unprofessional, because it's not something pertaining to the specific acts and activities that you were contracting to make. Because even though no money was changing hand, it's still a contractual thing. It's still work, and you should treat it like that.
All right. So one of the things that I found out was that Lili was asked for photos of her full body. Does this seem necessary to you before a photo shoot? Like, would that be information that you need to know?
Absolutely not. I don't even ask my models to get naked in general, because I don't need them naked when I'm tying them. I don't need them naked for the content I want to produce. Especially if you're planning to share that content anywhere, you generally don't want a naked model, and it's just unnecessary. I've tied plenty of people sight unseen, and it's worked out fine. So to ask for like pictures of someone's body, especially nude pictures, is completely unnecessary, out of line.
So I will say the one thing I do, I don't believe that he asked specifically for nude photos. I believe the phrasing was just of her body, but that still came off as, like, really weird to both of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little odd. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I'm contracting with somebody to work on that, I'll, like, go on their social media and take a quick look through their pictures, just to, like, get an idea of, like, what their general style is and what other professional work they've done, so I can get a sense of what sorts of things they might be looking for. But it's not to look at their body to determine really anything, because anybody can be tied up. So it just seems odd, especially with that phrasing.
All right. So from what you saw in the messages, how did his treatment or wording come off to you?
It came off as overly sexual. It came off as though he was trying to, like, negotiate play without saying so. Like, he was, I don't want to try to, like, read his mind or whatever, but it came off to me like the photography was just a excuse to, like, do rope play. That's how it came off.
All right. And, like, this is fully your opinion. I know I feel like everyone watching knows, like, you can't read his mind or anything. At least I hope that they would. But I do want to say that it's kind of like the feeling that I got too, and the feeling that a lot of other people got. From what I told you about our interactions at the convention in person, could you give me your opinion on how he handled the situation?
Um, sure. So the only thing that I remember specifically about what you told me was that you originally negotiated that you couldn't use your Airbnb because there was a policy, I'm not sure with the Airbnb or with your roommates, about no guests in the room, and he kept pushing, oh no, let's make sure that we can't do that, to the point where you were on your way to the Airbnb. And I mean, you already negotiated that. You already said no. You take a no once. You don't keep like asking the question hoping it'll change. That's one, manipulative, and two, just, not a nice thing to do. Was there any like other behavior?
So a lot of what he did while we were in person was just overly complimenting my body. Like one specific example that I talked about earlier in the video that I filmed when I was reading through the messages and everything. When we were walking up to it, it was a really steep incline hill, and I was walking in front of him, and he has like all his photography equipment with him and stuff, and so he's like struggling a little bit to get up the hill, and he looks at me as I'm walking in front of him, and he goes, "Oh, well, your ass is so nice. It's just like motivating me to get through this." And I was just kind of like, and like through the whole thing, like once we were like, okay, we really can't shoot in the Airbnb, let's go back to the convention center. We kind of talked about it, and we were like, okay, let's shoot outside of the convention center and just do a regular photo shoot. Through the whole photo shoot, I would be like, hey, can we do like this like fighting pose or something? And he'd be like, yeah, we'll do it. And then 5 seconds later, he's like, but what about this sexy pose? And like kept trying to get me in like all these like really like up shots of like my butt, and like trying to get me to stick out like my chest and stuff, even though it's literally socks and bra padding. Like there's nothing there. And he's like trying to get like all these like super sexual photos, and I kept trying to like steer it in another direction, and he just kept steering it right back to sexual. And like that's pretty much how the whole shoot went.
Um, yeah, it was definitely something sexual. I mean, he had a hard on for you, and he wanted to express that, and he wanted you to respond to it. And when you didn't, he just kept trying, because that's what people do when they don't get their way sometimes. Obviously, it's super creepy. It's super out of line, and like there are ways to compliment models and cosplayers that don't come off that way. I mean, I have complimented your ass in a way that is totally acceptable, and I have complimented lots of people in ways that are totally acceptable. And you do it by not having a raging hard on while you're doing it. I mean, so I'm not sure exactly what his deal was, but he was definitely trying to turn something that isn't supposed to be a non-sexual situation into a sexual one.
Yeah. So in our original conversation, you had mentioned that you looked through his Fetlife, I believe actually before the convention, when I was like talking a little bit about him on Facebook, and I was like, ugh, I don't know about this dude. And you said that there was a lack of things that you didn't see. So what were some of the things on his Fetlife account that sort of tipped you off on Thunder being a bad person to work with potentially?
Well, I mean, so he was being contracted to do rope bondage photography, and so I look at his page, and there are no pictures of rope anywhere on it. There's pretty much no pictures of, other people in a professional setting on it. If I'd had access to like more social media, maybe there's something there. But if you're contracting someone to do that, you would expect to find some sort of pictures regarding what they're trying to do. I mean, obviously everybody starts somewhere, but you don't start full-on bondage photo shoots at conventions. You start by taking pictures of models generally. You start by taking crappy pictures of rope you've done that you're proud of. And then you like merge those two things together and grow those two things until you're at a point where you're comfortable doing that sort of photography in that setting. I also didn't notice him posting in any of like the major rope groups. I didn't notice him like with any like major like rope learning events on his page. Because I mean, he's in the area. I'd expect him to be going to like Rope Bite or like a rope circle or some other like learning event occasionally. And there's no history of that either, which all struck me as very strange for.
All right. So the photos that I was given as a reference of his rope work that I did have to ask for, they were very sexual and they looked like they were a part of play and not a professional setup. Do you think that this is appropriate to give as a portfolio, and why?
Um, that's that's a little complicated. If you're just starting out, I mean, obviously you're gonna give give what you have. Um, I know there were a couple of times early on for myself where I would do rope for play, and if I thought I was proud of it, I would take a picture of the rope I did for play. Granted, I wouldn't do it in like a sexually suggestive thing. I would be like, okay, cool, before we do this sexy thing, let me turn you this way and get a nice clear picture of the back because I'm really proud of how clean this looks. So even those pictures, even though they're taken during play, still look like portfolio shots, even if they're taken with my cell phone camera um, at a club where it's like half dark. So I know I could forgive that if it was isolated, but it's not isolated. It's with all the other like um, behavior. So it's that's one extra like one.
Yeah, that's fair. So what advice do you have that he could, like, for things he could have done better, and like maybe compare those to ways that you run your sessions, that give it just more of a professional atmosphere than what he gave?
It's work. Treat it like a job. You wouldn't be if you're doing wedding photography. You wouldn't be making passes at the bride. If you were doing, engagement. I'm trying to think of other ways you would take pictures of other people. If you're doing like portrait photography or headshots, you wouldn't be like, making passes at the people. So separate your work and your play. If you want to turn work into play, I mean, that's something you can certainly negotiate, but you shouldn't be like trying to like hint at it or try to steer it that way. You should be forthright. It's like, hey, we're doing a photo shoot, and that's super cool, but I also think that you're really cool, and I like to, do some play during or afterwards. Is that okay? And if they say no, it's like, okay, cool, just a photo shoot then. And I've had that conversation, so you can definitely, do that. So really, just treat it like a job because you're working and they're working, and you need to have that mutual respect of two co-workers working on a project.
Yeah, and you actually like answered a question before I could even ask it. I was gonna ask about how you could potentially, like, if you did have those feelings for someone you were working with, how you could go about that, but you already answered that, so look at that. So you mentioned to me when we were chatting on Messenger before the interview that you felt that he was a little disrespectful towards me as a model and towards his tools, even stating that he used his rope on his boats. Could you talk a little bit more about that and what made that sort of disrespectful?
Sure. So anybody who's really into something and really and has a craft, whether it's, carpentry or model making or cosplay, is someone who respects their tools. I wouldn't, expect, a cosplayer to like have all their thread unspooled around everywhere. At least not all of it, maybe some of it. I wouldn't expect, a carpenter to have all their tools like banged up in disarray in random places around their shop, and I wouldn't expect a rigger who's trying to be professional about it to be using their sailing rope because, obviously the water and the sun does terrible things to the rope. Every rigger I know, even if they have other rope-related hobbies like sailing and climbing and just decorative macrame even, they keep separate rope for using on people because it's got to be soft, it's got to be supple, it's got to be free of contaminants because you don't want to give someone an allergic reaction while they're tying them. So the fact that he didn't have rope for the purpose of rope bondage is really, really strange and disrespectful in the matter that, if he doesn't have his own rope what if you don't have your rope? Then you're just wasting each other's time. So he's not respecting his tools, he's not respecting you, and he's not respecting your time, which is another big thing, because if you're working together and doing work, that time is worth something, and you should, make it worth, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So you're someone who's used to being in power in kink scenes in a professional setting as well. Could I have your opinion on how Lili and I were treated by Thunder when he knew that both of us are relatively inexperienced in the kink community, and just like the fact that he has a little bit more experience than us, and he kind of knows that he has the age on us, as well as we don't know how long he's been in the kink community, even though we do know he's relatively new to the professional side of it. Sorry, did that question make sense?
I didn't hear a question mark on the end of it, but
Sorry.
but I think I know what you're getting at. So, actually, no, I have no idea what you're doing.
Let me back up and rephrase. So just he was in a position of power, and just from some, yeah.
How I manage my power dynamic. Gotcha.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, there we go.
Okay. So, first of all, it's the understanding that it's not real power. It's an illusion of power. While it is technically true that I could type a model, and while they're tied up alone with me, I could do what I want to them. That is technically true, but in reality, it's not true, because that model is going to have that experience, and she's going to spread that experience to others. She's going to talk about it, or they're going to talk about it. I don't want to be gender specific. They're going to talk about it, and your reputation, especially in this community, is literally everything. If I abuse a model just once, that might be the end of my kink career, in both a play, just going around and having fun, as well as doing this for extra side cash professionally. So while that exists, I feel it's an absolute necessity to stay as polite and as respectful of the model and their boundaries as possible, because one, because I want to be a decent person, and altruism's a thing, but even if altruism's not your thing, even from a selfish perspective, it's still in your best interest to do that.
Yeah. So is there any advice that you would give to a new model for warning signs to look out in a potential kink photographer, for just things to be aware of that they might not want to work with the person?
Sure. So, first of all is, check references. The person who comes to you, someone can come to you and say anything about anything. So if they come to you and say, oh, hey, I'm a professional bondage rigger and photographer, they need to prove that to you. So they should be able to furnish you with a portfolio, and that portfolio should have models tagged and referenced that you can ask. You can go on my Facebook or on my Fetlife and look at all the photography I have, and with a few exceptions of people who wanted to remain anonymous, the rest of them have models tagged in them. You can click on any of them. They can click on your pictures and click on your link and be like, oh, Bejeweled Cosplay, let me ask that person, what he thinks of this, this rigger guy, if he's, a decent person. So check references, check their work to make sure they are what they say they are. Bring a friend, just as a security buddy, and also to just, make you more comfortable in general. And if anyone says, oh, well, I was really hoping for this to be just a one-on-one thing, run. Because, once again, this is a job, and they should have nothing to hide. So if they're objecting to another person just sitting in a corner of the room, probably playing on their phone the whole time, then there's, something going on that you should be concerned about.
Yeah. So kind of last question here. I don't want this to be something that excludes him from the kink community forever, or like I know cancel culture is really big right now, and I don't want that to happen to Thunder. I genuinely want this video to be almost a learning experience for him. Is there any advice that you have for him or any new riggers out there for how to go about a professional atmosphere and avoid this kind of stuff happening?
Sure. I mean, the simplest way is to work with people more experienced than you. If you're not experienced, working with fellow inexperienced people, you're going to learn nothing. So, either buddy up with somebody who's been at it for a while. Like, if someone who's new to rope and photography said, hey, Sci, you seem to know generally what you're doing, and they want to talk to me about it, I am happy to offer that advice for free all day long. On the flip side, if he wanted to work with people who were experienced models in that context, he could learn a lot as well from that, because they could say point blank, hey, what you're doing isn't typical, and this is why it's not typical, knock it off. And they would also be models and experienced bottoms who can recognize when things are going wrong before they go wrong. And that's just in general for the same general advice applies for doing rope in general as well. When you're doing rope in general, it's always good to work with bottoms who are more experienced than you, so you can learn from them as well. So work with people more experienced than yourself, always be ready to learn, and just have that idea of professionalism and respect, and that idea that this is a workplace. Yes, there is a half or mostly naked person tied up on that bed I'm taking sexy pictures of, but this is a workplace, and to treat it like one.
All right. I think that's all the questions that I have for you. Is there anything else that you can think to add on that might benefit the situation, or any knowledge you'd like to share, anything like that?
Nope. I think that about covers it.
All right.
All right, so those were all of the interviews that you just saw, the 3 interviews that I did. I know this was a very long video, and thank you so much for sticking around through all of it. I'm going to do my best to edit down all of my ums and ticks and stuff like that, and any like blank space in the interviews. But I want to leave in as much truth as possible, so I don't want to edit this too heavily. Again, I'm going to rephrase, I don't want this to be a cancel culture thing. I do genuinely believe that he has the potential to change as long as he takes this seriously and doesn't see it as an attack on him. I really hope that in the future, after he takes a small break and he steps back and he realizes what he did, I hope that he is able to get back into this and he is able to properly do this professionally and well. I wish him all the best. I wish his wife all the best. I hope to God this does not cause any problems in their relationship. At this time being, 2019, I do not believe that ThunderousPAWG is someone that you should work with professionally as a kink or cosplay model. Hopefully in the future that changes, but right now that's my consensus, and you heard the consensus of the people who I interviewed. But with that heavy subject out of the way, everyone have a really great night.